what are the main failures in the AI development? What can you learn from, or not just you, but what can also organization learn from those?
Are you talking about building AI or using AI?
Both.
Well, on building AI, I think we need to get closer to nature, right? Is how does physics work, and how, if we want to build an AI that is compatible with society, how does society work? And sometimes we do that, and sometimes we don't. Whenever we do it, for example, if you take, now this is fun, Schrödinger's formula for electrodynamics, and you replace the wave function with a matrix, you get reinforcement learning, right? That would, to me, mean that reinforcement learning is actually a natural process that the universe also uses. A lot of other things that we do are not very natural. And this is where we need to be more fundamental. I think we need more physics. We need more basic math in artificial intelligence. And we don't need these super specialized, like how can we get the last optimization out of sigma. It's more the question of do we fundamentally understand what's going on? Where's the difference between argument and probability? Like, this all comes back to the old problems. It comes back to the philosophical problems, like why are we here and so on, right? It comes back to the physical problems. How can we bring together the theory of relativity and the quantum theory? Because there in quantum theory you have probabilities, and there in relativity you have chains, right? So out there, how does this go together? And this is exactly what is happening inside an AI right now.
Can I infer to that almost that you're almost struggling a little bit to see why generative and agentic AI is so overhyped at the moment, or flipping the other side, also what's missing? Then are we still looking for the world model, the way Lacan is talking about, really understanding contextual change, not pre-optimized, but in a really, I think, your old dream of a general problem solver? Are these the issues we have to solve?
So, of course, those are the issues we really have to solve, right? The point, like, okay, now we're getting into the society part, right? Impact. Yeah. If you take generative AI, which is a fantastic technology, don't get me wrong, I like the technology, and I think there's big progress in it, but there is good ways and bad ways of using it. And then there is this third category, which is stupid ways of using it, right? So, let's start with the bad, right? We're Germans, so we have to start with the bad, right? It's out there. And then we don't have a sense of humor, so we don't get to deal with the stupid bit, right? So anyway, the bad ways of using it, of course, we can use generative AI to ask it where to target a missile strike. And it will not have any humane aspects, any morals. It'll just kill the terrorist, no matter how many other people die en route, right? Okay, I'm making these extreme examples just to drive it home. Sure. But this also is the same thing in a company, right? So if you think that the company is there for profit and society doesn't matter, like, this is actually funny. A lot of companies act this way. Say, like, oh, we're here to make a profit, which is what companies are good for, right? But companies are also there to give employment to people, or a purpose to people out there. They're not social institutions or anything, but yet a lot of companies don't give a shit about their workforce, but then they have these huge ESG programs to invest into environment and so on. Like, what's all that good for if you don't have any people employed or paid for anything, right? Are we then coming to universal income, which is not a great solution because people are competitive, and all these philosophical problems pop up immediately when you think about AI in a bad way. What is stupid, to not get to the positive part again, right? What is plainly stupid is to ask a system that is purely answering on statistics, so on what it has read before and in what sequence this stuff has been read before, to actually listen to that answer and lose your ability to make an argument in your head, and to actually, this is like you stop doing calculations in your head, right? What's 17 times 12? Blah. Can you do it? No, right? So if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think that's a very good saying, and it definitely goes for cognitive function. So if you're no longer able to do a simple search, if you're no able to do a research, if you're no longer able to make an argument, if you're no longer able to fight with someone to see who has the better argument, not to put the other person to the ground and win, right? But to see what's the better argument, which better arguments win. Like, if you're not able to do that, how is society, how is humans, how is economy supposed to progress in this way? And this is why getting answers from machines is just plain stupid. Like, if you can survive college with a mediocre degree just by using GPT, that doesn't mean GPT is a genius. It just means college is stupid. Right? If that's possible, just statistically.
Absolutely.
Like, I think we have to go back more. But now let's get to the good part. The good part is that through large language models, a lot of complex technology becomes usable by people who would not know how to use it.
No, that's a great point.
This is fantastic. This is transformer algorithm, right? They transform language to something else. So me, as a total idiot in Photoshop, can all of a sudden use the Fire AI from Adobe to make Photoshop things I could not do on the Photoshop interface. Me, as a strategist, can use our AI to query an SAP system to actually get information about a business and a strategy that I could have not gotten out of the SAP system before, right? This is awesome. It allows artists to do better films through video creations that would have been impossibly expensive to set up in a studio, and so on and so forth. All of this. It's like the whole world becomes a big box of Legos, and you all of a sudden, you're able to put the Legos together. Before, you were only able to do the green Legos, and I was only able to do the red ones. Now we can do green and red Legos, each of us, at the same pace.
This is pointing to, for me, the big challenge. Again, I think I asked that earlier. The governance. It's not the technology, but it's literally if you think about sounds to some degree like going back to the old days, microservices, service-oriented architecture. All of a sudden, we look at it in a different way, but with all these at least complexities, how do you have to think about governing all this?
Well, but this is where you get back to the agents, right? The agents is just we went from a host system to where everything was centralized and controllable and so on. We went to PCs where everybody could simply do whatever they want, hack and blah blah blah. Then we said like, this is not a good idea. We went back to client servers. Then we went even broader. We went to the internet, right? Now we're going back to agent-based systems and so on. So this is a normal oscillational pattern, and we are trying to wangle ourselves out of responsibility by trying to create technical frameworks. In the end, we have to answer the question is, what do we want AI to do and what don't we want it to do? And what do we, what is good and what is bad? Like, there are all these initiatives, AI for good, but they're all moral high riders, right? They're not realistic. They don't, we finance them out of a system, and the assumption out of this is that there is no corruption. But there is corruption in the system. So where's the middle ground? Like, there's not just black and white, there's a lot of gray. Absolutely.
We covered a lot. Looking forward, typically is, of course, the analyst job, so I'm shamelessly outsourcing it to you. Don't know, what are the expectations, both? What do you expect? What's your gut feeling? Where the next key shift in the evolution of AI? But also, what's the broader impact on ourselves? Where do you see some of, I guess you must be positive, how you get across your vision of non-standardized automation and creating a thing. So what's next? What have organizations to look out for? What do we have to crack?
But organizations are doing this, right, with LLMs. So what I said is the good use of a large language model is the ability for us as humans to use our natural way of saying what we want done, need done, what we see, what we don't see, and so on as language, and give it to technology and have the technology multiply us. This is like the ability to have a crane or a wheelbarrow, right? We could say like someone, okay, take the stones, and he'd be much faster using the crane and the wheelbarrow in order to build the pyramid. This is exactly that. We can now go to an AI and say, like, draw that picture, do this job. Can you talk to me? All of this will greatly accelerate us, right? The question is, what do we do next on the business side? On a business side, it just means we have to find a way in businesses to deal with this non-determinism. Like, you know what the result should be, you don't know how the solution will look like that gets you there. And you will have to trust the machine, which has inhaled the knowledge of your experts, so it doesn't go out of those boundaries in there. And AI governance is probably more of an after-the-fact regulation. You know, there's these two types of regulations that governments can imply. You have the typical EU type of regulation where we try to anticipate how the world develops and then we regulate it, and then shit hits the fan because the world developed very differently. You have the Chinese type automation, like bicycle rental services in Beijing. You just let it run, you watch what goes wrong, and they say like, okay, shit, if the bikes are parked everywhere, like what we have outside in Germany now with the e-scooters, right? And then after you've seen the problem, you regulate it, say like, okay, this is parking spaces, we've created park the fucking things there. It's exactly that with AI. Can we preemptively regulate it? Probably no. Especially not with government players, because as you can see, everybody ignores human rights if it suits their purpose. Going to war is a question of do you want to or not? It's not a question of should you.
Absolutely.
Right? You should never go to war. Yeah. It's not a good idea, but it's out there. So regulation means can we fix the problems after the fact? And we can. And this is what governance should mean much more than trying to preempt the problems, is have a very fast response to problems. And this is the great thing about AI, because everything becomes multipliable. If you really have identified the problem and described it well, it doesn't happen again. And then you have to differentiate in AI between these systems. You have to say, okay, this is my language interface, this is what I'm using, and introducing large language models instead of a browser as a general user interface makes huge progress. Like, every human can talk. Every human is... There might be a rise in illiteracy, but there's no rise in not being able to talk, right? So that's there. Every human can talk, and every human has an expression of what they want. And if they're part of a business, they obviously express what they need done in order for the business to thrive. And this is why LLMs are a great interface. The actual execution behind this should follow more logic than statistics, because statistically you also can't differentiate. If you make a better argument because you know I can build a car instead of raising faster horses, right? You get better results. And this is where you need symbolics and reasoning in the system.
Great.
Logic
Chris,
isn't all bad, you know?
I think I'm expecting a new T-shirt from you.
The answer is 42.
For readable for
this is very complex math on the T-shirt. I don't think you can see it on the camera, but the answer is 42. And for the younger generation, there is a fantastic book and audio play called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the whole purpose of Earth is to calculate the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And the answer is 42.
Great. On that
By the way,
note,
binary-wise, right? It's 101010.
Oh gosh, yeah. You have me there. Chris, it's always a great pleasure. I learned so much. Brilliant discussion.
Thank you.